Hey there, Tianan. I was starting to wonder if I joined the right Zoom call.
Yeah, sorry, I decided to take a quick bio break just before the call and then found that the hand towel was gone, and so I had to run and find that. Always one thing after another, right?
It's the X shading for using the restroom.
Yeah. It's like what is it, Malcolm in the Middle? The scene where he goes
Yeah.
to change the light bulb and checks the drawer and it's
What
got
does
a
it
bad
look like I'm
screw.
doing?
Yeah, he ends up under the car. Yep. So funny.
It's a good evergreen. Well, Jeff threw a few things on the agenda, so I'm assuming he'll show up in a little bit.
Oh wow. Did you see I found a bug in your conformance tests? It's a really
I
tiny
did.
one,
I did.
microscopic.
I was kind of annoyed at myself because I was looking through the Go code and I thought Go was doing some of the MIME decoding already, but it's just doing the key case sensitivity.
Yeah,
So it wasn't doing anything with the value of the header. It was just doing the header key itself, making the capital O lowercase ci syntax.
yep. It gives you a slice, but it's a slice of multiple headers, not a slice of the data from all the headers.
Yeah, so I've got that right now ready to push on my local branch, and I'm also doing another test on Reg Client because I got the same bug over there. And this really gets into the point that I want to make some unit tests for the conformance test. And I feel like this would be a good place to start adding that, but I don't know if I'm ready to go through all that process quite yet.
To make like an in-memory registry that tests every obscene edge case, or
Or, I mean, if I was doing in-memory registry for that, I have one of those. I wrote that. I don't want to throw that external dependency in there. I'm thinking at the very minimum, just having a bunch of API request responses and just hit all the various points of the code if I can somehow in there.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Honestly, the all the reg was 50% of that was just so I'd have an in-memory registry for a unit test. Works pretty good for that too.
Nice. Yeah.
All right, it's five after. We're all kind of running a little slow today, but we can kick this thing off. Get the screen share going. All righty. So, few things on the agenda today. Let's see. Got a couple things that are ready for review. One, the pushing by tag. Um, it does have two maintainers. Give 'em a thumbs up. I'd love to see one more review on that, even if it's not a maintainer. So, like Rom, I know you did some work over there on Zot, and you think it, I'm assuming you think that looks good over there. If Mike happens to show up, that would be an awesome person to have throw an extra review on there. But yeah, that or another registry operator, I think would be a good thing just to get some more eyes on this one. I feel like it's a big enough change for us. So that's sitting out there ready to roll. The other one is this thing that I completely reworked. And so I took this formerly was a way you can push a tag with a digest. And since we're pushing a digest with the tag, we don't need that anymore. So I pulled out all of that manifest change. And this is now just doing the one workflow that we weren't covering, which was to pass the digest algorithm when we don't know the digest in advance, which is if you're doing a patch or a streaming blob put and the digest comes at the end, it's nice to at least tell the registry that you've got a non-canonical digest algorithm getting ready to come down the pipe, and so the registry can be prepared and do its work with the right algorithm. So this is also sitting ready to review. Let's see here. And this verbiage was kind of in there I added, but the important one was just saying when you're pushing with a non-canonical, I didn't say non-canonical, I actually said SHA-256, that you should include the parameter. And then I threw an example in there, which triggered all kinds of comments, but I feel like it's not that big of a change. Just one extra parameter. So that's ready. Yeah, we got a few other people here showing up. So Derek, I think you're available to potentially review that one. So if it looks good
Yeah,
to
I'm
you,
taking a look at it right now.
okay.
Oh
Thank you so
man,
much.
Trevor's on there. Trevor say.
I mean, we've got a lot of people that wanted to jump in and talk about this. So, but this was also a lot of the conversation happened before I stripped it down to just the one change. So yeah, there's some reading to do on that one just because of the history. If I resubmit it as a separate PR, it might have been easier, but I didn't. All right. And conformance tests are still sitting out there with the redesign, ready for reviews. I know this is a big one, so I'm not expecting that to happen anytime quick. And Tianon threw his one review in there. I'm going to get that pushed here shortly with the one fix, small bug fix. And that's not just the PR distribution spec. We've got the PR to the conformance tests themselves. Be good to get another review on that. And Rom, you're actually a maintainer over there. So this is the receiving the new conformance test over in our conformance website. And then let's see, rework the spec headings. What's this one? Oh, so by request, took out the changes to the spec.md. So this one we got the two reviews. I think we can go ahead and merge it, but just in case anybody, actually the one person I wanted to see was Mike Brown on this one, just to make sure, because he had some thoughts on this, and I wanted to see if those were blocking or just something to consider. Because if he is good with this to go ahead and merge anyway, we can go ahead and merge it, but I don't want to step on his comments if he was more than just kind of inquisitive on that. And then there's going to be a blog post. And we can make this prettier. This is just kind of thrown together as quick as I could. But I also wanted to point to things in the distribution spec repo and in the conformance repo versus putting it on the blog post, because otherwise the blog post gets stale when we add a new feature or something like that. So I feel like if I can avoid putting too much over here, putting too much in this file itself, that could potentially change the better. So I only put an example in here of here's a abbreviating YAML file, not here's all the options you can possibly do, because more than likely we'll add more data types, we'll add new APIs in the future, stuff will change. But this is sitting out there and we can pull up the yeah, the deploy preview shows up for this. So pull that up, check out the blog, check out the redesign page, and this is the blog post. So if anybody's curious, feel free to pull it up, have a look, see if it looks good to you. And that is the quick run through. Oh boy, there were comments. I wasn't paying attention to the comments or the chat messages here. But that is the fast run through of all the open things sitting out here, including the push by tag. So that's a big one, at least on my side. Most of this we've been chatting about a whole bunch of times over the weeks, and so I don't want to dilly-dally on too much. Jeff, you've got a few things you want to chat about, though.
I am just a bucket of ideas and joy, or one of those at least. No, well, hot on the heels of maybe modifying a little bit the bulk tag push. There's a few other ideas in there I'm just kind of curious about. Happy to write up an issue, put in a PR, but just trying to gauge interest or feasibility, or if anyone's even interested in these things. So I guess first of all, there's that tag listing V2 PR that, or I guess it wasn't a PR, um, that kind of want to bring back up, but I think closely related to that, just in the vein of some of the recent supply chain attacks. Curious on doing a tag history endpoint. I know that's something that we've long talked about on Hub, in terms of, hey, when given a tag, here's a history of all the digests that this tag has pointed to at least provide a history of mutable tags when they were repointed, what they used to point to, and when. So kind of curious on if that's something that would even be, is that something that's more of an extension? Is that something that would be interested as more of a broad capability? And then the other one was a patch manifest implementation, essentially doing the same as the bulk tag push, only letting you do a patch instead of a post. So that way you just update tags given a digest. You don't have to actually upload the full manifest. So those are my three things. I will happily dig into them. I'm hoping there's maybe conversation around that.
I'm all about an improved tag listing API. So adding something like that would be awesome. I think that was this one for the repository updates. I think that was your proposal over here, was to improve the tag listing. It was at least an
Yeah.
option.
Yep. I guess, yeah, then the tag history I think is another one that I think has security implications. Happy to explore doing that as more of like an extension, but just kind of curious, is that something that others have seen interest in or have interest in?
I feel like Sajay was somebody that was very interested in seeing the history. I remember that right, Sajay? I say that
Yes.
right when your mouth is probably full.
No, no, no. I was listening along, and I mean, there's implementation in distribution, and many other registries kind of support it, but there's no API. It'd be really nice if we did have an API, but I'm not gonna. I don't want to rock the boat, but I do agree that this has been an ask from many places.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
will happily take a stab at something. I just kind of wanted to solicit, is this wasted effort or not?
I mean, it's amazing, right? Like in the sense that it's the only way to figure out if a digest needs to be maintained or not, and that's kind of a very strong case of, hey, this is what the tag of this digest was. Is this super valuable information? I mean, many places are distributedly keeping this information, like Dependabot and other places, so this definitely helps.
Is the history something we could embed as like an extra field that is included in the tag listing extension? So you list the tags and it says, here's the current tag. And oh, by the way, we've also got these so many other digests for the tag historically.
Uh,
That sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, I think technically yes. I think my fear there is we're sort of conflating a couple different things. Like the tag listing is essentially, here's a list of current tags, whereas the tag history is for a single tag, here's the history of that. my fear would be we're sort of conflating multiple things and munging it, which could make it a little more confusing to implement and or parse, but it could be an approach.
Or perhaps it's something people could request and as part of the listing with an option into it. That way, by default, you're not generating all that extra data, but if somebody really wants it, they can pass an extra parameter that says, please give me the history as well. In addition to Sage, it's a tag history. If you're asking if there's interest from the community, yes. I think there's an interest for that in general, beyond just Sage, but I've seen as well. The other one I keep seeing is people want to see a reverse on a digest. So they say, I've got a digest. What point did this digest in the past?
I, I was actually going for that. Because what happens is, at least I can share this piece, which is we find that the node has a digest. Getting the tag up into different systems are not sometimes easy, but that's been very helpful, like to kind of correlate with build IDs and whatnot. So being able to query from the digest to the tag history is like super valuable as well.
Now the question is, do people want to have a patch on the manifest API? So I think we all want a tag history. We all want a new tag listing.
I got to go for the trifecta. Come on, don't let me down.
It's not super neat on my side. It's interesting. But usually if I am updating or if I'm adding a tag to a manifest, most of these manifests are so small, it's not a big deal just to send it again. That can change, but for the most part right now, it hasn't been a big issue for me.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a big deal. And I think there are ways around it. I think one of the use cases that had come up was in line with like supply chain. You know, if someone pushed a updated manifest of the same tag and we overwrite it, this makes it easier to roll back. Because then it's just, oh, well, here's the last known good digest, and here's a tag. You can also pretty easily, okay, well, let me pull that and then repush it. So it's certainly not hard, but this would be easier. So that was sort of one of the use cases, but maybe it's not that useful.
I'm trying to save some airspace here to see if anybody else wants it. No one else is screaming if they want it. Sorry, Jeff, you get the infamous crickets.
Hey, that's all right. I mean, 2 for 3 is like fantastic in baseball, so I'll take it.
That it is. That it is.
I mean,
I
I
mean,
guess
you got these two, but you've also got the push digest with tag in our review list. So I mean,
that's true. So 75%, that's pretty much great in indie industry. So
yeah. I'm still hoping to get any one of my PRs merged, and they're all the same thing.
okay, yeah, I'll go back and I'll put in actual PRs so we can have some more discussion around it, and I'll I'll do what I can to look at yours as well.
So the tag listing, you have one sitting out here, but it's got, yeah, I put the dreaded changes requested on there.
Yeah, I think
I
there were some
haven't
things that we discussed. I just never went back to update it.
I haven't looked at this in a long while. So when did I last review that? Last June 2025. So yeah, it's been a few. And Tianon with the chat message that says he supports your lightweight tag updates. You've got one supporter.
Yeah, I mean, he's a little biased since he's one of the ones that wants it, but
Yeah, I was probably the bug in Jeff's ear that caused him to come up with this proposal, or at least a bug in his ear that helped him come up with this proposal, helped convince him the proposal was worth making. So it does feel biased for me to say it, which is why I didn't jump in.
I feel like if you're going to be the one that plants the idea, you've at least got to like give him some support here. Something.
Yeah, Jeff, that's a super cool idea. I love it. Let's do it. Except I'm not a distribution spec maintainer either.
I keep trying. They keep ignoring me. I need to ping them again in the Slack. I don't think they pay attention to Slack. I don't know what's up with that. I'm just going to submit it at one point here and just say, fine, if you're going to ignore my Slack messages, I'm making it public. Vote for Tianon. Yeah, the one thing on this tag listing that I need to work on my side is including other annotations in the tag listing means I need to put them in my index.json when I'm writing it to an OCI layout. And I don't want to put pull counts and timestamps in there, but it is useful for other registries.
I think that was purely a people probably won't include them, but if they did include them, at least let them be a standard name. So
Yeah. No, the created time for the reference to say this is when this tag was pushed, that's super useful. People ask for that all the time, and that's easy enough to add into the index.json. I just don't want to, for a registry that's built on top of it, I don't want to keep modifying the index every time someone runs a pull. So a push, yes, but not a pull. Okay. All the fun stuff is happening in the chat. Nobody wants to jump off mute and actually have a real conversation. What's up with that? We do these Zoom calls for a reason, people. I'm
Can
just
you
harassing you all
articulate the
now.
reason we do these Zoom calls, Brandon?
We've got audio, we've got video, got options here. But y'all can have fun in the chat. That's fine. I'll cut and paste that into the HackMD afterwards.
Yeah, I would love if we could articulate the problem statement that these Zoom calls solve. Is it just to keep OCI at the front of some people's minds? Because we don't usually get huge attendance, but we do get some attendance.
It's because everybody forgets about us if we don't do something.
We don't get huge maintainership attendance, and that's more of a concern. Because that means these calls are mostly just let's chat about some things and hope that people look at GitHub.
I have a silly question around that, actually. Like who, when was the last time the maintainers were updated? And like what's the process for that?
So per
That's all in the
project,
charter.
yeah,
Is
per
it okay?
project, there is a process to add a maintainer to that project. So for example, distribution spec, I mean, we've got the charter governance. There's a governance.
Yeah, the charter doesn't really control this. The charter says that each project is responsible for its own governance. And we have a way at the TOB to deal with there being inactive projects, but we don't have, like, TOB doesn't override the project governance generally.
Of course, voting should happen on the maintainers mailing list, but yeah, we usually still in a GitHub issue.
Voting for what? The releases or that's just
In
releases, not a
this case,
spec
I think the
change, right?
question was, how do we update the maintainers?
Gotcha.
Which I'm thinking we can add another maintainer into here.
I think the last time we had that discussion, we also had the discussion about whether or not separating the spec changes from the like conformance changes, which are basically the maintainers have a two-fold responsibility here, which is maintaining the spec, but then also maintaining the code, which is, sometimes there's not really anything controversial, and other times it's like, yeah, there's been disagreement.
I mean, I'll take the blame right now on the massive change to the whole conformance suite itself. But going forward in the future, my hope is that when the spec changes with new functionality, that the conformance changes at the same time with that new functionality. That would be a good place to be.
I would also say anybody can review changes, and it's up to the maintainers to decide whether or not a change has been properly reviewed, rather than uh, like this is the list of people who have a green merge button, but that's not necessarily the limit of people who can review a change.
I mean, I like Tianan's little gray checks in there just as much as everybody else. They
Yeah,
help
I
me.
like it because it just puts Tianan down a level,
Yeah, I gotta keep him in his place.
Yeah, you gotta keep them in check, the green check marks. It's chaos.
Oh, good times, good times. All right. Anything more we want to chat about? Jory and I had a chat earlier. We need to sort out all the chaos around the certification program. So that's eventually going to come. Let's see. That was the containers.org page. We've got some content over here that is very
Quite out
old.
of date.
This
Then
whole certified page.
not in alignment with current reality. And
Like,
just to give folks a quick update, like what we're gonna do is send a message to the trademark board and then also the TOB summarizing kind of the problem statement and the plan, which is to redirect the certification to the current conformance site, and deprecate the cert WG and some of those procedures. I think there's additional conversations to be had about what certification means and how we want to talk about that. But at least in the meantime, we can solve the problem of bad info being on the site, which is what is currently there.
I love that the two specs in here that we report the certification for are the image and runtime specs. So we're like, yeah, those two we got a process for. And then everything else, yeah, image and runtime, but nothing else. And then the one thing we got a conformance page for is distribution. And everything else we're like, yeah, it doesn't exist yet. Why is this a different container thing and not similar? So dig more into that, Rom. I'm not quite following.
And so what I'm saying here is, so we have this. So whenever you talk about dispec, we have a dispec implementation, and very soon we pull in all of the storage network thingies. So what I'm suggesting here is, so if you have NFS or SYS, and these are all storage protocols, right? So why don't we push for dispec to be another storage protocol? Because they're anyway very closely tied together.
So what would that look like?
So if you're looking at NFS, the things that happen there are the ecosystem, right? The ecosystem expects, hey, we can mount this remotely. We can then it's all the mount logic, the POSIX and all of that stuff, POSIX and all of that stuff, right? So that is what it pulls in. So if you were to make this a storage protocol, then maybe something similar happens. Maybe we can mount it and write things this way, or so that would be one part. But separately, it also allows for the rest of the container ecosystem to write to some endpoint directly, things of that nature. So it's a mix and match of all the use cases. So the reason I'm actually thinking about this is simply that the dispec and all the registry implementations are being used for various things as a general storage thing, right? So maybe that is a path we should explore.
I'm just grabbing Tianan's links in here, which this was looking at it. I don't know if it's quite going the direction you're thinking of, Ron, but this was looking at saying, hey, if we're storing everything in an OCI layout, you could access it without having all the other APIs. Which Tiana and I have gone back and forth on some of that. Some things work, a lot of things completely break. All right, I'm leaving some air in case other people want to jump in. Maybe throw some stuff more in writing on that, Rom. Come up with like a issue or something along the lines, and we can have a chat over in GitHub or in Slack or somewhere. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around what that would look like, what the changes are, how that would concretely change things. All right. If there's nothing else, that was the whole agenda. So I was kind of leaving it sitting here for another second or two in case somebody wants to try about anything else. Otherwise, we can wrap up early. Going once, going twice. Okay, that's a wrap. See you back here next week. Same OCI time, same OCI channel. And otherwise, have a great rest of your week. Cheers, everybody.
Thanks all.